Well, hello there, everyone. Good morning. Let me see if I can get a little bit of water. It's so good to see you guys this morning. So, let's get to it. Yelling. How's that working for you? I want to talk about that today because that is something that I definitely struggled with as a mom coming up. And so I'm talking to you. Good morning, Trina. Good to see you. I'm talking to you from the perspective of having experienced it myself and the lessons that I've learned. So I kind of came from a family that's, kind of how our communication style, when you want to get something done, it was just, you yelled, and I got used to responding in that way, when it was yelling, and then it would get me to move. And so when I became a mom, I just did what I knew. I thought it was normal until I learned about the damage that it does. So good morning. My name is Anita Gibson. I am a coach, speaker, educational strategist, and an author of a book called Starfinder, which is just about ready to come out in a couple of weeks. And I wanted to talk about the yelling today. So, what if the purpose of yelling, because there's a purpose for most things, what if the purpose was in an emergency, you were to use it to gain someone's attention, specifically your child's? For example, if you are at the playground and you see this dog running towards your child, that you can yell to them, say, "Come to mommy," and immediately they would come and be protected. Or if they're about to cross the street, "Don't move," because you see a car coming and they saw you and they're running towards you. So there is a time for yelling. Unfortunately, I used it way more than I should have, and I used it in the wrong way. In fact, if you use it all the time, pretty soon it becomes totally ineffective, because then even the yelling, the children, they won't listen to you. So this is what I did, and I didn't realize this is what I was doing. I actually was training my children to wait until I started yelling to respond. Here's an example. The first time I say something, "Go put your shoes on, we're getting ready to go." And then I get busy doing something else. And then I think they were putting their shoes on, and I look up and they're still doing whatever they were doing. I said, this is the second time, "Put your shoes on, we're getting ready to go." And then what would I do? Get busy again doing something. And I'd look up with my purse on my shoulder and everything ready to go. And I'd look up and they're still sitting there with no shoes. I said, there goes the yelling, "Put your shoes on, we're getting ready to go." And then what happens? They put their shoes on. They put their shoes on because I actually had trained them. Wait until I say it the third time, and when I yell, I really mean it. And I had to learn to break that habit. It wasn't that they weren't listening. It was they knew I did not expect obedience until I said it the third time and I yelled. And so I had to acknowledge to them that, mom's not as focused as she should be on this. I'm telling you guys to do stuff over and over and over, instead of, when I say it the first time, staying focused enough to make sure that you follow through. And so I ask you to forgive mommy, and I need you to know that beginning today, when I ask you to do something, my expectation is that you're going to do it when I ask you the first time. So it really was more about training myself than it was them. And as I began to get consistent, as I stayed focused on what I asked them to do, lo and behold, they began to respond to me the first time without yelling. works. This is the other problem with yelling, especially when they get to become teenagers. When you yell at a teenager, you give them a reason to not hear anything you're saying. Because while you're talking, in their mind, they're probably fussing, hopefully not cussing, but in their mind, they're thinking about you. I can't believe she's standing here, she's fussing at me, and we need to go, and I didn't do anything wrong, and they're not thinking about what you're saying. Because the yelling has become the focus, and it has given them an excuse to not really look at themselves. And I learned that. And so what I had to begin to do is when I'm talking, when I need my teen to really focus in on what I'm saying, especially boys, I cannot have yelling in the picture. I have to speak to them in a calm tone. I had to speak to my son in a calm tone. I had to get him to be able to acknowledge what the problem really was, and then how we were going to work out a solution. But it had to be in a low and a normal tone, because the moment I started yelling, they would put the focus on themselves and put it on me. And then we couldn't get to what the problem was, because there was a problem. There's a reason why we yell. We're just not walking around the house yelling. I know they think that's what we do, but we don't like it to have to fuss either. We want peace, right? Capiche? But there's a trick to it. You have to learn how to use your words. You know how we tell the little toddler, stop whining, stop crying, use your words. Well, that's what we have to do, moms. Right? We have to learn how to be able to use our words. And if we save the yelling for the emergencies, it will become more effective, and you can use it to help you when safety is the issue. But other than that, it is not effective in training up a child. And I tell you guys that because I had 3 opportunities to do it. And I tried yelling with all of them, and it did not work. And so as I learned to put that thing away and begin to communicate in a normal tone, to think out what I wanted to say, to stay focused when I gave them instruction, critical. To not be so busy running around doing this, that, and the other, but to stand and check and make sure that what I asked them to do gets done. It created a level of peace in my home. It created a level of joy in our relationship. Even sometimes when they didn't want to do what I asked them to do, the fact that they knew that I was paying attention to whether they did it or not gave them the push, the incentive they needed to be obedient. So if you're a yeller, listen, I get it. I understand. It could be something that's come from your past, like it did for me. It may be the way you were brought up, but it is not an effective tool for training children. It's not even an effective tool for any relationship. Because if we're yelling at each other, it's my husband and I, and we're going back and forth, we're not hearing each other. We're trying to win. And so you have to learn, what is the goal? Is the goal to teach my child how to be obedient, to get them to respond to the things that I'm saying? Or is it for me to gain control over them? That was my issue. It always came back to the need for control. And yelling worked for me. It got me those results I wanted on the front end. But on the back end, in the heart, my child's heart was not being changed because I was not speaking to them in a way that would bring life. So I would yell to get them to move. But what really God wanted me to do is talk to them and help them to understand why it's important to obey. That obedience is connected to love. And when you say you love God, and when you say you love mommy, then you obey. And this is what it looks like. And sometimes mommy doesn't want to obey either. But I learned how to obey because I want to show God how much I love him. And so when you start talking to them about it, about the thing you want them to do, when you give them the kingdom perspective, it gives you a child who does not give you the behavior you want to see in the face, but the heart is unchanged. And so down the road, you end up with a child who you find out is doing things and you are astonished. Part of it could be because you never developed a true relationship with them, that you never really helped them to understand why you ask them the things you ask them. And not that you can always tell them why. Sometimes you just need them to obey. But it's about developing a relationship. And you cannot develop a relationship with someone you yell at because they will not trust you. Because they won't know when is the next time she's going to go off on me. So I better put my little wall up. I better create some protection for myself because I don't like how that feels. And so in time, and it took some time, years, I began to learn how to communicate with my children in a way that I didn't need yelling anymore. And you can do that too. And so this morning, I'm praying for you. And I'm asking God to help you to be completely and totally free from anything that hinders you from being the very best mom that you can be. And that's why I call this the Freedom Forum. Because I'm sharing with you the things that God helped me to become free in. I'm telling the dirty things, the embarrassing stuff about myself in the hopes that you might be able to find freedom from those things that hold you back from being the very best that you can be, so you can make sure you are equipped to help your child win. All right, guys, I'm out. I'll see you tonight at 9:30 with some more strategies for the school year. I love you. Bye.